So let's expand on the importance of SEL and why it deserves our attention and care. So, why is it important? Why should we prioritize SEL? Well, SEL goes beyond just being a feel good concept. It wields a profound influence on various aspects of our lives, including academic performance, mental health and well being, overall success, and a positive school climate. Also long-term life success. So research conducted by Vanderbilt University. There also is a really great resource that you'll find at the end that I will be referencing a lot too, which is Vanderbilt and the IRIS Center, IRIS. So Vanderbilt's IRIS Center. Their research shed a light on the transformative effects of SEL programs on students. And participants in these programs exhibit enhanced attitudes, behaviors, elevated academic achievements, and reduced emotional distress overall. So, in essence, SEL isn't just merely a nice to have addition. It really is a game changer that paves the way for immediate and sustained success for our students. So consider this for just a second. When students are equipped with the tools to understand and regulate their emotions, they can focus more effectively on their studies and actively engage in their learning process. So by fostering strong relationships with their peers and educators, students create a supportive and collaborative classroom environment that minimizes disruptive behaviors and fosters a positive cycle of learning and development. Furthermore, SEL plays a pivotal role in nurturing resilience among students. Life is a roller coaster. We all know that. And SEL empowers students to navigate these highs and these lows and navigating them with grace. It teaches essential coping mechanisms, aids in navigating social complexities, and promotes positive decision making skills. These attributes are not only vital for academic excellence, but also form the building blocks for thriving beyond the confines of the classroom and into the real world. In a comprehensive meta-analysis conducted by CASEL involving 213 SEL programs and over 270,000 students, the results were striking. Students who underwent SEL instruction outperformed their peers by 11 percentile points on standardized tests. This underscores the significant academic advantages of integrating SEL practices into educational frameworks. Additionally, participants in SEL programs showcased improved classroom conduct, enhanced stress management capabilities, diminished instances of depression, and harbored more positive self-perceptions of themselves. Attitudes towards others improved, and overall outlook on learning and school environment were more positive. So to help you understand, if you are not familiar with meta-analysis, a meta-analysis it's a sophisticated research methodology. It involves systematically gathering and analyzing data from numerous individual studies. So it's a lot of studies combined on a particular topic or an intervention, in this case, SEL. This process allows researchers to synthesize these findings and put them together. So they're uncovering patterns, they're drawing overarching conclusions based on a larger pool of collective evidence than just a single small study. So a meta-analysis it's considered a powerful tool in the realm of research, and they provide a comprehensive overview by combining results from diverse studies, thus producing more robust and reliable outcomes than any single study could achieve on its own. So, in the context of SEL programs and their effects on students, meta-analysis studies play a vital role in aggregating and synthesizing data from a wide range of sources. So, this approach enables researchers to evaluate an overall impact of SEL interventions across various settings, various populations, and various methodologies. So, it consolidates data from multiple studies, and this meta-analysis offer a clear understanding of the effectiveness of SEL practices in promoting positive outcomes such as academic success, emotional well-being, and social competence among students. So the meta-analysis conducted by CASEL, which encompassed 213 SEL programs and over 270,000 students, like we talked about, exemplifies the depth and breadth of insights obtained through the research approach. It meticulously analyzed data from a large sample size. The study was able to showcase the substantial benefit of SEL programs, illustrating the impressive performance gains of students who receive SEL instruction compared to their counterparts. These findings underscore the significance of utilizing meta-analysis as a tool to unveil the far-reaching impacts of SEL on student achievement. As well as behavior and overall well-being. So incorporating the insights derived from the meta-analysis into educational strategies and policy decisions can empower educators and stakeholders to make informed choices that enhance the holistic development of students and foster resilient and thriving academic community. By recognizing the multifaceted benefits of SEL and actively incorporating its principles into education curriculums, we pave the way for a brighter, more resilient future generation poised for academic, emotional, and personal triumphs. And I can attest to this myself. We are very data driven at the school that I work for and founded, and it's we see, especially with our populations, we primarily serve marginalized and underserved populations, which means students with, that come from trauma, students that have disabilities, students that are gifted, so students that kind of might fall through the cracks or just might need a little bit of extra. We see their test scores and the effect sizes are impressive, and I do feel like a large component is the ability for us to integrate social emotional learning into their day. So let's take a little bit to talk about the science behind SEL. So I'm going to have you nerd out a little bit. This is not something that you really have to have memorized, but having an overall understanding of the neuroscience is really important to have a better understanding of where a lot of our kids that are in our environments and classrooms, where they're at and where we need to start with. So having this basic knowledge of neuroscience is pretty imperative. So our brains really are wired to connect with others and to manage our emotions, but it just does not happen automatically. Trust-based relational intervention, TBRI for short, which is out of Texas Christian University, emphasizes that consistent, nurturing relationships are essential for healthy brain development, especially in children who have experienced trauma. We see this in our student population at my school. The number fluctuates, but currently about 20% of our students are foster to adopt and or have some, trauma background, whether that is due to experiences or, we have a lot of students with medical trauma as well, which that can present similarly, but also different. So which is why our entire staff is TBRI trained, and we utilize their principles, and we are currently having one of our staff members become a facilitator, as so many of our students in our school come from trauma. But I would bet that many of your school settings are really no different, and students have currently or in the past or maybe currently experiencing trauma. So this really is important to understand, as these students are often having fight, flight, or freeze reactions and are having these amygdala responses, which are impacting their learning. So let's dive deeper into the intricate workings of the brain, particularly focusing on the amygdala response and why understanding its role in fight, flight, or freeze reactions is crucial for us educators, especially in students who have experienced trauma, which unfortunately is a lot of our students. Within the complex landscape of the brain, the amygdala holds a central role in processing emotions and triggering survival responses in the face of perceived threats. When an individual encounters a stressful situation or a threatening situation, the amygdala rapidly assesses the emotional significance of that stimulus and it initiates the body's fight or flight response. In case of extreme distress, the freeze response may also be activated as a protective mechanism as well. So in students who have been exposed to trauma, the amygdala's response can become hypersensitive and easily triggered, leading to exaggerated or prolonged emotional reactions. This heightened reactivity can override the prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for executive functions such as decision-making and emotional regulation. When the amygdala does take control of the brain, rational thinking and reasoned responses, they're just compromised. So as the focus shifts to survival instincts and emotional intensity, we are not in our thinking brain, as we like to call it. We need to, get our response back down and get back to our thinking brain. And a lot of these SEL strategies can support the rewiring of the brain to get there. So the amygdala's influence during this fight, flight, or freeze response can manifest in various ways in trauma-exposed students. So for instance, a student who has experienced repeated instances of maybe restraint or seclusion, may exhibit immediate amygdala responses when faced with the perceived threat, even in non-threatened situations. I've had students where they've been restrained and secluded so often school itself is the threat, and so when they're at school they react. A lot of our kids from trauma also have they have separation anxiety from, their caretakers, and being at school can be really, really difficult for them. We've had students that have gone into fight, flight, or freeze, and, when we get them back to their thinking brains, they're able to rationalize that they just really wanted to be able to go home and to be able to see their loved ones. And so they went into either a fight, flight, or a freeze response. So this heightened reactivity really can hinder, a student's ability to engage in learning and maintain cooperative behaviors and relationships, or appropriately respond in social interactions. So by recognizing the profound impact that the amygdala response plays in trauma-exposed individuals, educators and support staff can implement strategies to regulate these very intense reactions and facilitate a sense of safety and emotional security. Through targeted SEL interventions, students can learn to reframe their emotional responses and develop coping mechanisms to manage stress and gradually rewire their neural pathways for more adaptive behaviors. Through empowering students to understand and regulate their amygdala responses is a transformative process that not only enhances their emotional resilience, but also fosters, a conducive environment for academic success and personal growth. By providing trauma-informed support and integrating SEL practices into daily routines, we can help students navigate the complexities of their emotions, cultivate positive coping strategies, and build a foundation for lasting emotional well-being and academic achievement. When we practice SEL, we're essentially helping our brains develop better pathways for emotional regulation. Think of it as creating a well-trodden path in a forest. The more we walk it, the clearer and easier it becomes to follow. SEL helps strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and moderating social behavior. It also helps regulate the amygdala, which possesses emotions like fear and pleasure. So if you go back in time to high school science, you'll likely remember, talking about neurons and the axons. That is the highway of communication. Actually have a little visual right here I could show you. I'm not sure if it would be on the screen, but if you could just imagine, kind of, your neurons, and in between you have that axon and myelinating that pathway. When we learn to walk, we don't know how to walk when we are a baby. We have to learn that, and it becomes more and more automatic once those pathways become myelinated. So, let's give another example. So imagine you're driving a car. The prefrontal cortex, it's like the steering wheel, helping you navigate and make decisions. The amygdala is the engine. It provides the power and the emotional drive. Without proper steering, the car might crash despite not having a powerful engine. So SEL ensures that both parts of the brain are working together harmoniously, leading to better emotional regulation and decision making. So it really is our job, in conclusion, to help remyelinate those pathways, and teaching SEL throughout the curriculum. You can literally see these students' brains being rewired in their actions. I actually have a little one right now who has experienced a lot of trauma, and before we got this individual was unfortunately restrained daily. Unfortunately, we've been able to avoid these situations partly due to our culture and SEL integration into our curriculum. But one practical thing that works well with this little one one, and lots of kids, is especially when they have impulsive bodies. So like think of the kids that are just like wanting to run down the hallway all the time. And so instead of feeling like we're in trouble for running all of the time and, decreasing constants, we initiate what's called a redo. So this little one is now redoing on their own, which is so cool to watch. We were actually running down the hall the other day, and I was about to say, hey, let's do a redo. And they caught themselves. They're like, oh, whoops, I need to go back and do a redo. And we went back and walked completely on our own, which is a great example of showing that appropriate myelination of that pathway after practicing and redoing that skill over time. So finally, SEL promotes the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, which those are linked to feelings of happiness and well-being. So this not only enhances mood, but also improves cognitive function, such as attention, memory, and problem. Now we're going to talk about some practical SEL strategies for your classroom, including mindfulness activities, morning check-ins, collaborative problem solving, emotional regulation strategies, social stories, role playing, and gratitude journals. Um, all right, incorporating some SEL into your classroom really doesn't have to be super complicated. People are oftentimes worried about the time constraints, and it can just be incorporated into your day. So starting with morning meetings to build a sense of community, use emotion check-ins where students can express how they're feeling by using a simple chart or integrating mindfulness exercises like deep breathing or guided relaxation to help students manage stress. The Vanderbilt Iris Center offers fantastic resources to help you get started here. So let's dive into some specific examples that you can implement or may already be doing, but could be more strategic about. So mindfulness activities, consider incorporating mindfulness exercises like deep breathing or guided relaxation into your daily routine. This can help students calm their minds and focus better. We had our middle school, high school group was coming in over the weekend, specifically really dysregulated. And so we started a time in the morning right after car line where students just kind of, laid down in the dark. They set their intentions for the day and did a guided relaxation. And they could kind of take with it what they wanted to and just kind of allow their bodies to be really calm and start their day that way, which was really, really helpful for them and something that they have continued to implement because it's a great way for them to start their day. Morning check-ins. Starting your day with morning check-ins where students can share how they're feeling, like they can use an emotion chart. This really helps create a supportive environment and promotes that emotional awareness. We'll talk more about that in the upcoming slides. And then collaborative problem solving. So encouraging students to work together to solve problems, fostering teamwork and critical thinking. This is a really great one for your PE teachers to get involved with. Having games, kind of special days. It's really easy to integrate them, like water days and things like that. Or recess time is a fun way to engage collaborative problem solving. You can also, all of these can be, easily incorporated into core content as well. Emotional regulation strategies, teaching students that various strategies to regulate their emotions, such as deep breathing, taking a break, using positive self-talk. We'll dive into that a little bit more too with some of our teachers' strategies as well. And then social stories and role playing, so engaging students in those social stories or role playing activities to help them understand different perspectives, which helps improve their social skills. Gratitude journals, introducing gratitude journals as a daily practice to promote positivity and reflection among students. We also do that with our older middle school and high school students. It's how they start their day, and they're welcome to share as well. But it is a great way to just kind of set that intention and realize like, hey, I do have a lot of things that are going really well and do have gratitude for those things. Morning meetings specifically can be a really big game changer. It provides structured time for students to connect with each other and with their teacher. So a lot of our classrooms begin with a greeting, a round of sharing possibly, in a group activity or a game. So this routine helps set a positive tone for the day, and it builds strong relationships and promotes a sense of belonging. So emotional check-ins, they're another great tool. So creating an emotion chart with faces and labels for different feelings, happy, sad, angry, excited. Each morning, you can have your students place a sticker or a magnet on the emotion they're experiencing. This is a simple activity. Not only helps students become more aware of their emotions, but also allows you to gauge their overall mood of the class and address any issues early on. A lot of our teachers have their visuals incorporated into their calendar time or morning meeting time, where students are able to just choose how they're feeling based off of a visual support um, during their morning meeting. Mindfulness exercises, they're perfect for helping students calm their minds and try to focus. So try starting the day with a few minutes of deep breathing or guided relaxation. You can also use mindfulness breaks throughout the day to help students reset and refocus. We do this, we call it rest and digest. So after any of our movement times with recess, is what we call recess is movement. So any recess time, when we come back in, because what does recess do? Right? Like just the things that we're doing at recess are like fun and exciting, and we're kind of essentially like popping our top, right? Like we are amped up, and so coming back and resetting and refocusing is a really helpful way after kind of an exciting time. PE would be the same. um, so in terms of Vanderbilt, the Iris Center does provide excellent resources, including some online modules and printable materials to help you incorporate these strategies effectively too. Um, okay, so let's talk about some practical tips. So incorporating SEL into your classroom. It doesn't have to be super complicated. Start with morning meetings to build a sense of community. Use emotional check-ins where students can express how they're feeling using a simple chart. Integrate mindfulness exercises. Um, Guided relaxation, and kind of read your classroom, right? Like if your classroom is feeling a little bit, out of control, take a moment. It's a lot of times it is worth that extra couple of minutes just to get that refocus back and get students back regulated, because we can't learn if we are dysregulated. Um, so again, that Vanderbilt Iris Center offers fantastic resources. So again, if you are one to kind of pause and score off, feel free to pause and kind of check out what they have to offer. You can do that or save it till the end, but definitely check out the Iris Center for resources and potential lesson planning. Morning meetings, they really can provide that structure for students to connect with each other and their teacher. So beginning with a greeting, a round of sharing. A lot of our students pick how they greet each other. So we have visual supports where they're able to pick like, hey, I want to be greeted with a high five, or, a fist bump or a hug or a wave, depending on what they are feeling that day, which is totally cool. So you can really integrate those. I'm sure a lot of you are already doing these things in your classrooms, but maybe just need to be a little bit more strategic about it. And keep in mind, every classroom is different and every year in your classroom is different. So don't be afraid to kind of read what your group of kids this year needs, and be able to adapt and adjust as you need to.
Let's look at a real life example of how a morning routine can transform a classroom from a few of my teachers. So, pictured here, every morning, Miss Courtney's third grade to fifth grade classroom come in and put away their belongings and start with a feelings check in, which you can see here on the screen. So, Courtney created this herself. Make sure to take kind of an extra look at this. Feel free to pause and kind of look at it more in depth, as this will be one of your assignments to create a product similar to Courtney's, but something that works for your grade level, your classroom makeup, and your school culture, as I really want one of your assignments to be something that you have a product to be able to take back and potentially utilize straight away. So after students are complete, they turn this in and find a mindfulness activity until it's time for morning meeting, where students gather to greet each other. During this time, while they're waiting, the teacher will check in and make sure she's kind of looking through, looking for anything out of the ordinary, trying to find patterns within students to see, man, they've really come in frustrated every day this week. Like, I maybe need to check in with them a little bit more. Or, maybe they're saying they're upset, but they don't need anything. Like, how can I really help them and front load them to be able to use their tools more? So it really acts as a way for the teachers to know, how to address their students and what they might need during the day. Maybe they need a talk, a hug, a rest, a pep talk, maybe a fidget toy, and maybe they don't need anything, and that's okay too. Um, So this is a really good tool. So you see the student filling that out first thing in the morning, and then they'll have mindfulness, and then they will go into morning meeting. So at that morning meeting, they're going to gather, they're going to share some things about their day, maybe what happened over the weekend, maybe what they're excited about going into the weekend, and they'll review the day's schedule. This simple routine fosters a sense of belonging and prepares students emotionally for the day ahead. During these meetings, students take turns leading various parts of their team, which boosts their confidence and leadership skills. They start with a friendly greeting, something as simple as a high five or a kind word. In most of these classrooms, the students choose how they want to be greeted based off of a visual menu. High five, a wave, a hug, etc. We do believe that students should have autonomy, especially with their bodies, and so having some voice and choice on how they want to be greeted is important, and it shows and models that advocacy. So then we move on to sharing round, where each student shares a quick update or something maybe they're excited about. The sharing fosters a sense of community and empathy as students listen to support each other. So students also know around the room, they also have some, physical toys that they can use, and we'll talk more about in the next slide, that they can utilize. So a lot of our students across all of our environments know that these tools are not toys, and we really don't see concerns with the misuse of our items, such as weighted blankets, wiggle seats, sensory fidgets, etc. It's a really good opportunity for students to use their advocacy and utilize what they need to be able to be the most successful selves while they're at morning meeting. A lot of times we also observe that students who were previously really shy or withdrawn start to open up and participate more actively. The morning meeting really does create a safe and supportive environment where every student feels valued and heard. This positive classroom culture does have a ripple effect, as we learned earlier in terms of the data, which leads to better academic performance and fewer behavioral issues, which we witness in our environment.
One, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8, 9.
Okay, so this is the continuation of some real life examples of classrooms in my school. So here you'll see a visual regulation station created by Miss Courtney. So this is in the back of her classroom. So all students know this is a place where they can access items that they need or communicate how they're feeling throughout the day. So a good thing to do in your morning routine is make sure students are reminded of their tools. So this is a good thing to kind of bring up and just kind of pepper in there throughout your morning routine of just reminders of opportunities for regulation throughout the day, so students know their expectations. We tend to be really good as educators at the beginning of the year, making sure students know what their expectations are. But really, when you're transitioning from, holiday break, maybe a new student has joined the class, that's one that I feel like I always kind of whoopsie overlooked, and, looking back, realizing like, oh man, like I really should have done a better job of making sure that this student is front loaded with the information on where they can access. So just kind of don't forget if you have a new student, if it's a transition period like a holiday break, coming back after summer break, beginning of the year, super important to ensure that students know where to access those tools and expectations for those tools. For example, a lot of our students know their tools and not toys, and that has to be taught, and where those designated locations, and how to utilize their advocacy skills, and those are respected when they ask for it, but one needs to make sure that it's enhancing the learning and not hurting the learning. So now we're going to watch a video. This is another example of a product that you could create for your classroom for mindfulness and for one of those assignments. Miss Katie, another one of my amazing teachers, created this mindfulness sheet this young man is following in her classroom routine. It looks a little bit different, but it's equally effective. And I think the thing I really want to point out here is that every classroom is different. Every year is different. Teachers, when they are exceptional, really are being guided by their classroom makeup. So this particular classroom, they are a wiggly group. They like a lot of movement. They're super athletic. And so their morning routine looks very different from Miss Courtney. So they actually start right after Carline, and they have the flexibility that they can play on the playground before they go to class. So, after Carline, they go to the playground, not for very long, but just to kind of get their wiggles out. And we kind of talked about kind of flipping our top of like, when we're excited and we're running around, it's an easy, it's a good opportunity, I should say, to be able to utilize regulation strategies. So they play, they do their transition where they're doing the deep breathing that we talked about. And then they come back to class and kind of slowly get their bodies ready for morning meeting. So they put their bags away, their items away in their cubbies, and they go and grab their mindfulness sheet. And so this little guy is doing his mindfulness sheet, and it's not the entire video. So I think you can kind of get the idea, but he starts out doing more physical activities. So he starts with toe touches, then he does butterflies, and you can kind of see a close-up partway through the video where you can see everything. But essentially, it's going from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and by the time he gets to 1, he is doing kind of more grounding techniques to be able to get himself grounded and reset and ready to join morning meeting. So let's take a look. I love how he gets back up here and realizes he needs 2 more. It's always different when somebody's filming you. So other things on that chart is things that you can see, things that you can touch, smell, taste. So those are all grounding techniques. You'll hear in the background too, there is very calming music to be able to, get the students back recentered. We use a lot of spa music, different types of music that are going to get our students calm. So wanted to give you those practical examples. Inclusivity is crucial. So students with disabilities, just like any human, need adapted SEL strategies to thrive. We all need something a little bit different. So this could mean using visual aids, providing one-on-one support, or collaborating closely with a special education professional. By tailoring our approach, we ensure that every student benefits from SEL regardless of their unique needs. However, it should be noted that whenever possible, universal design is the best way to go about this for all learners. So if you don't know about universal design, this is kind of one of those like fun times where you can pause and kind of go on a little bit of a deep dive on that. But I'll give you an example in case you kind of maybe have a little bit of an understanding, but it definitely is an interesting topic to learn more about. So if we are we're building a building from the ground up, maybe a new school, and there needs to be 3 steps at the entrance because of the grade of, the entrance to the building. And so the architect builds 3 stairs, and then alongside he builds a ramp because we have to be ADA compliant. We could have just built the ramp for everyone, and that would be universal design. So it is just creating from, the ground up, something that works for everyone in mind, and that is really the preference here. So for instance, visual aids such as emotion cards can really help with students that might have communication challenges to express their feelings. So one-on-one support from a teacher or paraprofessional can provide that extra guidance and encouragement with these students need to engage in these social emotional activities. It is imperative to consider when you are a one-to-one support or when you are acting sitting next to a student, your regulation really matters. Being regulated next to them is really good peer modeling, and then also we do feed off of each other's energy, so making sure we're regulated around our students is important. So collaborating with special education professionals allows for the development of individualized SEL plans that align with each student's unique strengths and challenges. So remember, we all have strengths to add to the lives of our students too. I've always known this, and I've often utilized my occupational therapist and speech and language pathologist to the advantage of my students and my classroom. So often they would be willing to do sessions in my classroom so I could watch them and find ways for me to generalize their goals into my classroom, because I didn't go to school to be an OT or an SLP, and I really wanted to learn from them, and it was really, really invaluable. So let's consider this real life example. So pretend we have a student that has a comorbidity of autism and Down syndrome and is non-speaking or nonverbal. And they use an AAC device. So for those who aren't familiar, again, you might pause and kind of search, but an AAC device is, in this case, we're going to pretend that it is an iPad that has maybe Proloquo to Go or a lamp. So they're tiny little pictures, and the student is able to use motor planning and communicate what they are wanting and needing. So in this case, we're going to pretend that they can use it, but it might not be super functional in the current educational environment. And maybe that's because a lot of the adults in the student's life, other than the SLP and maybe the parent, maybe not the parent, really don't know how to use the device. How often does this happen, that we see kids coming in with devices and the devices aren't really used? I see it all the time. It's something that we really talk to our teachers about. It's something that is such a great way to include students, and we should be utilizing, those advocacy and those accommodations and modifications. So it is worth the time to call meetings, send someone to be trained by the SLP, and ensure that the team is proficient with the device. So I've seen many devices sit dormant because the adults in the child's life just don't know how to support the motor planning of the addition of pictures on said device, and that's just a bummer, and shouldn't be the case. So my advice would be to make best friends with your SLP. They are such an amazing resource. So let's think about this example in regards to calendar time. What if everything that was discussed during calendar time, including greetings, weather examples, all of those pictures match your actual calendar time in the correct motor planning? What if those were inputted onto the device and the student was taught the motor planning and where those were, if appropriate to the child, of course, and with support from the SLP, as we need to make sure we are staying inside our scope. But imagine the connections and confidence the student would encounter if we just took that extra effort to collaborate with our SLPs and learn how to utilize that AAC device. Another good example is a student with ADHD who might find it difficult to stay focused during mindfulness exercises. His teacher may have worked with a school special education coordinator to create a personalized mindfulness routine that included physical movement and sensory activities. By adapting the exercises to suit the student's needs, his teacher helped him develop better self-regulation skills and reduce anxiety. Another personalization that we use, and I used a lot when I taught as well, was the Thomas Armstrong Neurodiversity Checklist that is in the resource section, so you're welcome to check that out. It is a really great checklist of, a lot of different strengths. Sometimes, when you see an individualized education plan, there's that little section that says, strengths. A lot of times when I get IEPs from schools, they're super short, and we really try to add as many strengths as possible so we can utilize those strengths when we are building social emotional curriculum, because if we don't know student strengths, we really don't have a great place to start. So again, I've cited that source. It's in the reference section. I often put these in the student's IEP section, like when I did teach, and it was a really great way to help build goals and be able to accommodate and modify those goals as well. Okay, so another big thing we see within our population of students with disabilities is people do not often presume competence from them. So imagine how that would impact anyone's self-esteem. So it is important to always presume competence and give opportunities to be included and show their strengths, as they have so many to offer our communities. By being flexible and creative, we can also ensure that all students benefit from SEL. By being flexible and creative, we can ensure that all students, including those with disabilities, have the opportunity to benefit from social emotional learning. Remember, the goal is to create an inclusive environment where every student feels valued and supported. Tailoring our approach to meet individual needs is a key component of effective SEL implementation. How do we know if our SEL efforts are paying off? Assessment tools like the DeVoe Student Strengths Assessment, or DSSA, can help measure students' social emotional competencies. Gathering feedback from students and parents also provides valuable insights. Remember, SEL is an ongoing process, and continuous improvement is key. So using tools like DESSA, teachers can track progress in areas such as self-awareness, self-management, and relationship skills. This data can inform instructional decisions and help identify students who may need additional support. Additionally, surveys and feedback forms can be used to gather input from students and parents about their experiences with SEL activities. This feedback is invaluable for refining and improving SEL practices. For example, a school might conduct a mid-year survey asking students how they felt about the SEL activities in their classroom. The responses may highlight a need for more varied activities and additional time for reflection. The school could respond by incorporating new SEL exercises and scheduling dedicated reflection periods, leading to increased student engagement and satisfaction. Implementing SEL isn't always smooth sailing. Common challenges include limited time, lack of resources, and varying levels of buy in from staff. But fear not, solutions include integrating SEL into existing curricula, leveraging free resources from organizations like CASEL, organizations like Affirm, um, you have Iris Center. All of those will be in your resources section so you can utilize later, and all of those are free. And fostering a school-wide culture of SEL through professional development and collaborative planning so everyone is on the same page. For instance, time constraints can always be addressed by embedding SEL activities into existing lessons. A science lesson on ecosystems can include discussions on teamwork and empathy, highlighting how different species support each other. Limited resources can be supplemented with free online tools and lesson plans from trusted organizations. Building staff buy-in can be achieved through regular professional development sessions that demonstrate the benefits of SEL and provide practical implementation strategies. We've also discussed other practical solutions and will continue to do so during the remainder of this presentation. Building a school-wide social-emotional learning culture is a multifaceted endeavor that hinges significantly on robust leadership support, active community involvement, and strategic partnerships. Principals and administrators play a pivotal role in spearheading SEL initiatives within their schools. They not only champion the importance of SEL, but also ensure that teachers receive continuous professional development to effectively integrate SEL into their teaching practices. Leadership support goes beyond mere endorsement. It involves creating a school environment where SEL is seen as integral to academic success and overall student well-being. This can include incorporating SEL goals into the school's mission statement, allocating resources for SEL programs, and fostering a positive climate where students feel safe, supported, and emotionally equipped to learn. Community involvement forms another cornerstone of successful SEL culture. Engaging parents and local organizations creates a network of support around students, reinforcing SEL principles both at home and in the broader community. For instance, organizing events like SEL Nights where parents can participate in SEL activities alongside their children not only strengthen family-school partnerships, but also educate parents about SEL practices and their benefits. This collaborative approach fosters a shared understanding of SEL's role in nurturing children's social and emotional skills. Moreover, partnering with local mental health organizations can enrich SEL efforts by providing specialized resources, expertise, and additional support systems. These partnerships can offer workshops for students, professional development for staff on trauma-informed practices, counseling services, and access to student and community resources that support SEL goals. By cultivating a strong foundation of leadership commitment, community engagement, and strategic partnerships, schools can create a cohesive SEL structure that permeates every aspect of student life. This holistic approach not only enhances academic outcomes, but also equips students with essential skills they need to thrive socially, emotionally, and academically, both during their school years and beyond. Okay, real life examples incorporating into play. So I could give a million examples of this, but it doesn't have to be just play. It could also be incorporated art or any subject matter really, or cross subject lines. So some of these that we're going to talk about do cross subject lines. So I love how play really allows students opportunities to pop their top, so in a safe and fun way, and then practice using strategies to get their bodies and practice using their tools back to regulation. So the first picture on the left is of our teenagers. They did an egg drop experiment. They built safety houses for their eggs, so they were working on engineering and also regulation at the same time. So they had to watch as I dropped their egg devices from a tall ladder, and I'm 6 feet tall, so it was pretty high in the sky. And students watched. In the middle picture are littles watching this entire experiment. We made it a community event, so you can imagine it's an opportunity for students to get really excited and practice coming back down from their excitement. So, and really it's about myelinating those pathways, giving them opportunities to get excited and then calm their bodies back down, and play is such a good way to do that. So the picture on the right is a daily example. So we did do this after the egg drop experiment, but we also do this every day after recess. So you can see the teacher kind of in the middle of the playground. It might be kind of small. Hopefully you can zoom in. The students around them on the track, they maybe are looking like they're stretching or their hands are up. So her hands are up because she is mimicking the pattern of breathing that students need to have. So we're outside, we are maybe a little bit dysregulated, and we are working on entering our space into the classroom or back into more of a learning style environment. So she is modeling that for them and breathing, bringing her hands up and breathing. And so they are doing that with her. In terms of lining up, students are lined up based off of, regulation. It's not an in trouble thing. They completely understand it really just isn't a problem. We also have line leaders and door holders, so students know what their jobs are. So there's really not any fighting over who has those roles. And then we talk to students about when you're lining up, everybody's going to the same place. It doesn't matter where you are. You just want to make sure that you are as successful as you can be. And sometimes we need more time to regulate than others, certain days. Certain people, some people are more excitable. I tend to be more excitable, so I might need a little bit more time to regulate my body, and that is totally okay. So students are released and they are regulated before they go back into their environment. On the far right, this picture is water day. So we are year round, so we have a few water days per year. And this particular student is super excited, and so it's just kind of giving them opportunities to collaborate, to use their social emotional skills and really flex those muscles and practice myelinating those pathways and giving them opportunities. Because if we don't give students opportunities to utilize the strategies that we're teaching, they're not going to be able to implement them. So make sure you are giving students opportunities to utilize the tools that you are teaching in your classroom. Now let's connect SEL with the 21st century workforce. Research shows that employers increasingly value skills such as emotional intelligence, teamwork, and effective communication, all of which are nurtured through SEL. Our communities are asking for these skills, and it's essential for preparing an employable workforce that meets these demands. By integrating SEL into education, we're equipping students with the tools they need to thrive in their future careers. For instance, a report by the World Economic Forum lists emotional intelligence, people management, and coordination with others as top skills needed for future job markets. These skills are directly aligned with the core components of SEL, teaching students how to manage their emotions, collaborate effectively, and make responsible decisions prepares them for success both in their personal and professional lives. Furthermore, employers are recognizing the value of SEL in enhancing workplace culture and productivity. Companies like Google and IBM are invested in employee well-being programs that include SEL principles such as mindfulness and emotional intelligence training. This demonstrates the growing importance of SEL skills in the modern workforce. I know for our school, we have a back-end system for hiring teachers, and it's very driven by SEL and the willingness to work on these skills, as we know that it is imperative for our teachers to be able to model these skills for our students. So here are some real life examples of the future workforce. So we are super proud that our students are proving that they are developing the skills to be employable, and your school can do the same. So we create lessons that align with social emotional standards, which these can be accessed through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for the state of Missouri, also known as DESE, and that resource can be found in the reference list at the end of the presentation. If you did not know that there were SEL standards for the state, now you do. And when you are creating lessons, those are really great things to add in to other academic areas. So whether you're doing, we'll go through a few of these in these pictures below. But you can meet a few standards all at the same time, some of which can be SEL. So our teachers did a collaborative school-wide assignment where students from our classrooms created their own mindfulness products. So the first two pictures on the left are two students who created mindfulness activities. One was a ball, and when you throw it, whichever one you touch is the activity you do, and this can be adapted as needed based off of age. So, it might be you catch it and it says take 5 deep breaths, or you catch it of like name a grounding activity, maybe if it's an older group. So the younger girl in the middle, she created directions to create a mindfulness bracelet, or in her case, also a headband. This could also be potentially meeting a writing standard at the same time. So you can be creative on how you are meeting several standards and including SEL into those standards. So these students went into other classrooms and presented their work to their peers, which helped build confidence. And the young man on the right of the rectangle pictures, he is actually a teenager who has his first job. So he is taking the social emotional learning that he has learned through our culture, and he is utilizing those skills and making some money. And I'm super excited for him that he has his first job and he is showing employable skills. So this little girl on the right, her entire class did an economics unit where they learned about creating a product and selling their products. So the entire school came and they had pretend money and they purchased products. Again, super fun, allowing them to utilize their skills through SEL and also through, more general standards as well. So you can see how easy it is to integrate these SEL ideas into your environment and supporting a better workforce. To continue your SEL journey, here are some fantastic resources as we start to wrap up. So you can visit the CASEL website for a wealth of information and tools. It's one of my favorites. You also have the Vanderbilt Iris Center, which offers excellent online modules and lesson plans. Trust-based relational intervention provides insights and strategies for working with students who have experienced trauma. And of course, there are numerous books and articles that we'll talk about. The other one would be Affirm, and that is through the University of North Carolina, which is an awesome resource as well. And don't forget, we already talked about the DESE standards, and you should probably start there as well. I am an avid reader, so those of you who are, here is more of an extensive list of some articles and some books. So part of this, and we'll talk about this more in the next slides, you will have your assignments and your quiz. In terms of these scholarly articles, you have to pick two for your assignment. And so it doesn't matter. There's links that you will have access to, including Teaching Social Emotional Learning is Under Attack. There is a lot of misinformation about social emotional learning. And so it really probably would behoove you to have kind of an understanding of, what the concerns are and, how to kind of collaborate and communicate those concerns. If you do have parents or administrators, I believe social emotional learning is really for every person. It's one of the most inclusive things that we can do. In terms of our school, we really make sure that we are leaving our own personal opinions out of teaching social emotional learning. Our own opinions really don't matter. It's really about teaching, mindfulness and how to support your own mental health. In terms of Science Direct, that will take you to the American Psychological Association, and there are a variety, if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, a variety of articles. You are welcome to pick any one or two if that's where you want your second article to be from. You can do that too. And then the core components of evidence-based social emotional learning programs is also there. Some of the recommended books: The Whole Brain Child by Daniel J. Siegel and Tina Payne, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, Social Emotional Learning in the Brain, Strategies That Help Your Students Thrive by Marilee Springer, All Learning is Social and Emotional, Helping Students Develop Essential Skills for the Classroom, Nancy Frey, Douglas Fisher, and Dominique Smith. And then Social Emotional Learning Starts With Us, Empowering Students by Tricia DeFazio and Allison Roser. Okay, and we will get into on the next slide about your assignments. Okay, so we're going to start with creating your social emotional check-in or mindfulness activity. This is estimated to take about 30 to 60 minutes. I'm going to briefly go over each of one of these, and then we'll go in more in depth. And you will also have, you don't need to take notes here, you will also have a very detailed explanation of these assignments before you take your quiz too. So the next is choosing 2 scholarly articles to read, or you are welcome to choose a book. You do not have to read a book. You definitely do not need to purchase a book. Make sure if you do decide to do a book, check your local library, check Audible, check audiobook. A lot of them will be free if you have those apps. If not, check your local library. If you want to purchase them, go ahead, but again, that's not a requirement of the course. That should take 20 to 60 minutes. Obviously, if you pick a book, it's going to take a little bit longer, but that is up to you. If you are kind of nerdy like me and want to do that, I totally get it. And then you have your quiz, which is estimated to take about 30 to 60 minutes. So going back to number 1, creating your own student emotional check-in. Overview. The assignment, I really want it to be hands-on and for you to create a check-in tool and a product that you can go back and use. So I want it to be personalized to your environment, your school, your culture. It assures that you have a practical product for your educational practice. So you can use any tech tool you prefer. You can use Canva, you can use PowerPoint, Google Slides, whatever you want. And this is, I know some of you will run with this and love the tech piece, and some might, but if the tech part scares you, I do think that that is really important for us to stretch ourselves, and we can do hard things. I had to learn some new things in Canva to be able to present this to you, so I completely am on your team and am here with you. Canva does have a free account. Make sure if you use the free account, just kind of be mindful that there are some things that you can't utilize if you do not have the paid account, which is totally fine. And you can, if you are super artistic and want to draw it, do that too, and you can scan your assignment in. It doesn't have to be super tech savvy. I would love for you to learn a new tech tool, but if you are more artistic, you can do that too. So essentially you're going to decide on a tech tool, whether it's Canva, PowerPoint, Google Slides, or any other tech tool. You're going to design your check-in. Components should include, it should help students gauge their emotional and mental state at the start of their day. It should consider including elements such as mood meters, maybe open-ended questions, mindfulness activities, or any other SEL strategies you find beneficial. And this will look different based off of what ages you teach. Like our high school kids, they do a lot of writing prompts in the morning for their mindfulness activities, and that is okay too. I just would ask if you did choose that to, create maybe several, maybe 5 to 6 writing prompts that you could utilize for older students if that is the age group that you teach. So you're wanting to create a visual layout that's appealing in terms of layout that students can easily use, and ensure the design is inclusive and accessible for all learners, including those with disabilities. When you're finished, you're going to write a reflection about why you chose the component, include it in your check-in, and discussing the goals you aim to achieve with your check-in tool and how it aligns with the principles of social emotional learning. So next would be choosing the 2 scholarly articles. That is pretty self-explanatory. If you need any more explanation, please look kind of at the in-depth explanation there, but you're just choosing 2 articles to read. It's kind of an honor system there. You are here because you want to learn, so I'm trusting that you will do that for your own learning. You are welcome to pick what you feel like best suits you and your environment. In terms of the quiz, that should take around 30 to 60 minutes depending on your prior knowledge. There are some multiple choice and then some open-ended questions that you will have. It is open note, open book, and it's open computer too. So there might be some things that I lightly touched on due to time, and this is an intro course that you might have to Google and learn a little bit about. That's part of the learning process. I'm not a big quiz person just for the sake of quizzes. You guys are all adults, and I trust that you're here to learn. So part of learning might be that we have to look up those answers. So I suspect that you're going to get 100% on those quizzes, and I want you to, because I want you to be solid on your answers, and part of that can be research. So I'm totally cool with you doing that. So that is it for assignments and quizzes, and then we will wrap up here in just a second. So here is your references list as promised. You will also have a references slide that should be at the bottom of all of your assignments as well, to make it a little bit easier to access those links. Since this is a PowerPoint, I know you can't access them on here. So at the bottom you will have your references, so you can do that. Anything that you kind of want to peruse and learn more about, that is awesome. And I just wanted to thank you. I am such a big fan of educators. I thank you for being here learning with me today and for everything you do. You guys are changing the world and, supporting the 21st century workforce, and they need you, and you're amazing, and just keep doing what you're doing. So blessed to have educators like you that are wanting to learn more. Take care.